G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back for part 40 of the Path of Exile Survival Guide. In this episode, I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently. I'm going to be giving you guys a bit of a guide to the best places to gain XP and level up to get into the map system. So basically where you're getting XP outside of maps. And this sort of ties into last episode where I was talking about setting different goals and some of the different things you can do in games. Now this won't cover everything, like we're not going to be farming for asteroid map pieces or anything like that in this. But it'll be about getting yourself prepared, level up to, and have enough power to sort of get into and do the maps system efficiently. However, before we get into that, there's one other thing I want to show you. I'm going to jam pack as much value in here as I can, as always. I'm going to be first setting up a cast when damage taken setup. Now this is something every character should strive to do at endgame. You can actually set it up around level 30 something. You can start to set up 37, I would say, would be the minimum for setting up a good cast when damage taken setup. So you can actually get this pretty early. But this is a gem that you get as a quest reward, or you can get it as a drop, or you can purchase it. It's generally pretty expensive. Somewhere around the 5 chaos mark is typically an average price, so it's going to cost a lot more in a shorter league or early on in a league, and especially more in hardcore. But basically, this is an automated defense setup, an automated defense system for our character. There's a number of different ways you can set up when cast when damage taken, and I'll go through some of these. But the setup I'm going to be using here is cast when damage taken at level 4, which gives it a level 37 requirement. Now this is important because cast when damage taken will only cast skills that are also level 37 or lower requirement. So this is very important when selecting the gems you use and in what level you have those gems actually leveled up to. This is one of the things where you actually will stop leveling gems, one of the few times in the game where you'll do that. So, cast when damage taken set up at level 4. This is generally a very effective setup, I think, for most builds. I think most people go for either level 4 or level 7. I'm going to recommend to you guys level 4, and just stick with that for now until you learn a little bit more about some of the other things you might want to do with your character. But in this build, level 4 is the way to go. So, I'm going to socket this in an item here. Now I typically just do this in one of my 4 socket slots. You want something that's all red or red and 3 reds and 1 other color, because basically we're going to be using Enduring Cry. Now this is left at level 7, which gives it a level 37 requirement. Perfect. This is the perfect level to leave this at. It'll be as effective as it can be, and while still making sure that it'll cast from cast when damage taken. And the reason we do leave cast when damage taken at level 4 is that it has a nice balance between making sure that skills will go off often enough, as in this will trigger after you take 620 damage. It'll cast the linked skills. And it also has the sort of the trade-off between casting often enough while still having powerful enough triggers. So Enduring Cry is always good. It generates endurance charges, and this will generate endurance charges whenever we take 620 damage. It will generate 1 or 2 endurance charges, which will simply reduce the amount of damage we take from there on out. It's very powerful. This is one of the primary things you should always link to cast when damage taken. So Enduring Cry. Now when we get hit, after taking a bit of damage, this'll go off. This'll trigger from the cast when damage taken gem, and we'll have a nice defensive boost. Now another really good one is Molten Shell. Now this one currently isn't fully leveled up, so today, or during this episode, I'll be making sure to get this to the correct level, which I think is level 9. That brings it to like a level 36 requirement or something like that. You can't get it exactly on 37, I don't think. But we'll be sticking that in now. What Molten Shell does is, sure, it can explode and deal damage and stuff like that, but that's not the reason we use Molten Shell. The damage is pretty insignificant, really, at level 8, or even at its higher level. But what it does give you is a bit of extra free armor. 347 armor. It'll be slightly higher once it levels up again. It'll be something like 400 something armor. It's nothing to scoff at. Currently we have 2200 armor. This will bring us up to like 30 something %. So it's actually a decent, considering it's basically free. We don't actually have to do anything for this to happen. We're just spending 1 gem slot on getting 400 or so free armor whenever this goes off, and this stacks with Enduring Cry as well. So very nice stuff there. Now the next slot is a bit of a wild card. I think one of the best things you can use is Enfeeble. Now Enfeeble goes to something like level 5 or 4 or something like that, but you just want to keep the level requirement to 37, and that requires just setting up a blue one there. Another alternative is Temporal Chains. What Enfeeble does is it straight up reduces the damage we take from enemies. However, to get a blue socket on this is going to take quite a few chromatic orbs, so I'm going to leave this as is for now. If you've got a straight armor helmet, it'll be very easy to get 3 red and 1 blue. You may have to spend like 10, 20 chromatics max, but to get the blue on this one is going to be maybe a little bit trickier while also getting 3 red. So I'm just going to stick with this for now. We can always level up Enfeeble and switch it over later, maybe once we have some more spare chromatics. But I'll play it safe and go with Temporal Chains for now. Now, while Enfeeble is better because it just straight up reduces the damage, Temporal Chains still, we've used this curse in the past, it'll slow down enemy hits. Now, another alternative skill you can use is Decoy Totem. You can basically just have it, or even Rejuvenation Token, but I don't think that's as good. Decoy Totem will just drop down and will distract mobs and take, 1 or 2 hits before it dies away from you. So it's a nice distraction, allows you to sort of make a quick getaway during dangerous situations. But I like the auto curse setup, so basically this will automatically curse, and it automatically targets whatever deals the damage to you as well. So, just to show all this in effect here, we can go to Docs, and I can jump in here and show you guys basically just taking some damage and having this go off. Now you'll notice that you cannot cast these spells now that they're linked to cast when damage taken. So if you were previously using Decoy Enduring Cry manually, for example, I can't use that now. Same as Molten Shell. And same as this, the Temporal Chains that I have linked cannot be used as well. Thankfully though, I have another Temporal Chains that I can use just here, my previously leveled Temporal Chains. So if you still want to cast Enduring Cry, and having a manual cast Enduring Cry is actually a pretty good idea. You can simply get another gem and manually cast it yourself. And that is actually a pretty good idea. That might be something I get set up myself soon. So I'll just round up a few mobs here, and we'll take some damage. And you should see this go off soon. We'll automatically cast Enduring Cry, Molten Shell, and Temporal Chains. You see that happened. Our armor goes up, 38% physical reduction now, 42, up to 42. Now that Molten Shell's up as well. And it'll keep setting off. We got 2 endurance charges. It's a pretty nice extra way just to make your character a lot more tanky. And the Temporal Chains is going to slow those guys down as well, to make things a bit easier for us to deal with them. So if it's something dangerous, we can slow them down, move, they'll group up better, and then we can basically kill them. So, cast when damage taken, although it takes a little bit to get it set up and running, and it's also a little bit complex in getting like the correct levels of skills and stuff like that. Once you get this set up, it's a really nice boost for your character, and essentially free. It just takes those slots, like you don't actually have to spend any time casting any of these skills yourself. It all happens automatically. Fantastic addition to pretty much any character. Any character can set this up, basically. The only ones that I think it's not amazing in is pure evasion characters, but that's usually a more advanced build type. The reason that isn't as good is because you often aren't taking much damage as an evasion-based character. But even then, it still has some uses, so very nice stuff overall. The shield was almost good, but not quite. So, let's talk now about where to farm XP outside of maps, because this is basically, the map system starts at level 66, right? We can go back into town briefly here. You'll see that the base level of maps is 66. You've probably no doubt found some by now, and we've got all these 66 maps in here. However, things this doesn't tell the whole story. We know things like, 62 docks was pretty easy, even at like level 58 or 60. Pretty easy stuff. And Lunaris, doing Lunaris, we're level 70 now. Doing Lunaris at 75 is nice and easy. So you'll think that's like level 66 maps, only 1 level higher, should be pretty easy. However, maps get a bit more difficult, a bit more dangerous. If you're playing hardcore, you want to be very aware of this. But even in softcore, it's a good idea still to spend some time leveling up outside of maps before you delve into the map system. Generally, I think it's fine to go into the map system, start doing 66 maps around level 69 to 71, maybe as late as 75 in hardcore, depending on your character. So you can spend a fair bit of time leveling up outside of maps, and there are some good leveling spots. Now, the reason why a 66 map isn't as easy as it seems is because we craft these maps to make them more difficult to help us progress through the map system. This is just the way it is. You're never really going to run a white map. There's very few instances where that is worth it. So we do something like add 1 stat there, add a 2nd stat there. Now this is, monsters have increased life, and players are cursed with Enfeeble. Now this one's going to take quite a long time to clear, because it's going to take a very long time to kill things. I can reroll this again. Monsters deal 85% extra damage as lightning. That's almost doubling the damage of mobs in there. So you can see straight away that that is getting a lot harder, and we can add an extra stat to that. And players take extra chaos damage per second. That one's not too bad. But the increased damage as lightning is fairly dangerous. So these things get a lot harder than what just simply their level would suggest. Now, in addition to the difficulty modifiers, mobs actually are much more randomized there. We know what we're getting in docks. We know there's void bearers. We know there's, the dock workers. There's a bit of fire damage. There's a bit of ice damage. Everything else is pretty safe. We know what to expect in Lunaris. However, in maps, there are some set spawns of certain mobs depending on the map type. So, for example, Tropical Island will always spawn with some monkeys. But we also don't know a lot of those other mobs that are going to be spawning there. It's going to be completely randomized. You could get rower charges. You could get things that deal like lots of lightning damage. You never really know what you're going to get. So that extra variability and the potential for nasty mob combinations to get together makes maps much more dangerous. Now, it's nothing you should be afraid of. 66 maps are really not that hard. You can even do them as low as 65 or 66 if you like. But just playing it safe, always playing like we're playing hardcore for the purposes of this series. It's a good idea to find some places to level up outside of maps, and you probably also want to build up your map pool a bit as well. So, the first place is docks. We've already done a fair bit of docks farming to get to this point, to go kill piety and things like that. Docks is level 62, and it's a good spot to farm. So let's jump into docks, and I'll talk a little bit about docks farming. So our character is currently level 70. Now there are some online calculators you can use to calculate this XP penalty system in the game. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this at some other point, but in Path of Exile, once you start to out-level a piece of content, you start to take XP penalty. Now at level 70, I'm taking some XP penalty, there's a map drop, from docks. So I'm not getting super efficient XP. Now the stuff in here being lower level also means that we're simply not getting as much XP as we could from a higher level zone. That said, docks is a very nice spot to get just straight XP, and it's super fast, it's super easy, and it's super safe to get XP in all the way up to level 70, I would say, and some people even farm docks all the way to level 75. So I've seen people do it much further. Personally, I probably am very tired of docks by like the 71, 72 mark. I wouldn't really farm docks much beyond this point, but you'll see, even just in a few minutes of farming in here at the moment, that we'll get a fair bit of XP just farming docks. I've already got almost 5% of XP just from sort of playing around in here so far, just because you can group up large numbers of mobs and kill them very quickly in here. Everything dies pretty fast. A lot of this stuff's really easy. Even if your DPS isn't great, you can still kill stuff in here pretty fast. Oh, superior item rarity, nice. That's a good find, 9%. Not the highest roll, but item rarity is always nice to find. And a 9% one just increases the amount of rarity that gives, so we can potentially use that on a Culling Strike ability in the future. We might use like Split Arrow with Culling Strike and item rarity to cull bosses and things like that. So that'll be nice to have. With that in mind, I'll actually stick this in my boots here to level up, so that we can start increasing the rarity that will give. Because as it levels, it also gives more increased rarity. So I've got a few more % of XP. You can see, a couple hours in docks just while you're chilling out, watching a movie, watching something on your second monitor, or, just listening to some music and chilling out. Or if you're playing with some friends, just doing some casual grinding of docks with your friends is a good way to level up and get a decent amount of XP. Now, the reason I say usually you'll do this to like level 69 or 70 or something like that is because beyond that point, other things start to become faster. There's faster projectiles as well. I probably won't use that, but I'll pick it up anyway, just in case I need a spare one. So let me just check these things. I'm going to be very carefully watching this. So I'm going to level up in Feeble. You can see next level requires level 23. So pay very careful attention to that, because we want to keep that. We don't want that to exceed level 37. So always check that. Same thing here. This is in our setup at the moment, 23. So we're going to level that as well. They'll probably go to the same level, I imagine. Now, I've already talked about farming docks in the past. Basically, you just run through the docks area. Each time you get to one of these little outlet areas, you just go down to the end of the pier. There's usually a blue pack down at the end of the pier. I'm actually surprised there's not one here. Oh, there is a bit further along. So there'll be a few extra packs along here, and there should be a rare or a champion pack or a blue pack just in here somewhere, which those are the ones that are going to give you the most XP and also the most loot. So there is good potential to get upgrades. Like there's a rare just there that could potentially be an upgrade, although we're probably not likely to drop our 5 blink anytime soon. So let's just kill this rare here. Frenzy. I've had some people asking about single target damage on this build. Frenzy is actually one of the best single target skills in the game. So just make sure you have that Frenzy set up, at least in a 4-link. So faster attacks, added fire damage, life leech is all I'm running at the moment, and it's fairly effective single target damage. You can see I basically 2-shot white mobs with it, and rare mobs and stuff like that go down pretty fast. So you don't just use this as a frenzy charge generator, you also use this to kill single targets as well. So other than that, we can head back to town. I'll talk about some of the other locations. Let's ID this chest first and see if it's any good. Nothing really there, just a decent fire resist roll, but nothing else of any value. Nothing high, no high armor, no life rolls, so that's basically just a salvage. Now I am still keeping an eye on my vendor recipes here. I have probably enough to make a vendor recipe pretty soon. Looks like I'm looking out for, actually might have a full set, so I'm gonna see if we can put together a chaos vendor recipe just here as a bit of intermission between talking about zones. Go ahead and stash my maps here, and stash some of these guys since I don't need any of these anymore. Okay, so we have the vendor recipe. Now, in case you guys haven't seen this before, we need a full set of gear over eye level 60, so you can check that out by picking up the item, typing in /item level 64, making sure everything's above level 60. We want chest, gloves, helmet, boots, and then 2 one-handers or a 2-hander work just fine. And ring, we need a belt, actually. Looks like we need a belt from somewhere. I think I do have a belt sitting around in one of these stash tabs just there. So I can just grab that one, nice and easy. And that's a full set of gear right there. That's considered to be a full set of gear. And this all trades for, oh, a chancellor. Looks like one of these guys is lower item level. So probably this one just here. This belt is level 54. So unfortunately I can't use that just yet. So what I'll do is I'll just chuck this back here until we get another belt. And we'll vendor that set together fully with all over item level 60 stuff until we get that Chaos Orb for it, which is a very nice, steady way to get a nice amount of income to purchase upgrades for your character over time. And that sort of segues into the next zone. Now, this is kind of in order of what you should farm them, in a rough order of what you should farm them, but you actually have the freedom to do any of the zones I'll talk about in this episode, at any time, really. But the reason I talk about them in order is because that's generally the order of effectiveness for most characters. Now, Dox is pretty good for almost any build. That's also worth considering. There's very few builds that can't do Dox effectively. Now, Lunaris is a little bit different, and this is the next zone. Firstly, Lunaris will work well for this character. There's some tight hallways and things like that, but there's pretty large mob packs and they group up pretty well. They're kind of fast moving, they group up, so Lightning Arrow is very effective. You can curse them as a group like this and kill them with Lightning Arrow very effectively. Now this is a higher level zone. This first area is level 65 and the second area is level 66, so it will be a fair bit harder than Dox, and also the type of mobs in here are much more dangerous as well. So this is actually a cursed area, sorry, one of the ones from Sacrifice of the Vile, but we'll talk about that in a future episode. We'll talk about farming those zones, so we're going to be skipping over it for just now. Oh, so many teasers about those zones. We'll talk about them later, guys, trust me. So, heading through this way, obviously that was a dead end, so we're going to be heading this way. So this works pretty well for this sort of build. I think most builds can do Lunaris pretty well as well, however, it is a fair bit more dangerous, so if you're playing in hardcore you should be aware that there's things in here like these unrighteous fire guys. They deal a very nasty dot. If you've got low fire resist you should be very careful. Currently my fire resist is at 67, so not maxed out, so I do have to be careful of that. There's also some pretty nasty physical damage from the tentacle miscreations. I don't know why I'm kiting these guys. I tend to just default to kiting while I'm talking. And there's also the whipping miscreations that apply a vulnerability curse, which makes you take a lot more damage from a lot of the damage sources in here. So it's a very nasty combinations. Also, the lightning warping mobs can shock stack you if they crit. So a lot of nasty mobs in here. But as long as you sort of get used to dealing with each of the types, so sidestepping the tentacle miscreations that fire their projectiles whenever they start firing, and staying out of range as a ranged character from the whipping miscreations, keeping an eye on whether you're being cursed or not, these are all very important things to keep in mind. Now, the way we run Lunaris is essentially we just search straight away for the entry to Lunaris 3. So I pretty much ran straight here. What you can do is you can actually reset this zone over and over again until it spawns right next to the waypoint. That will happen like 50% of the time. But personally, I don't mind running some Lunaris 65. You can get XP on the way here too. So let's head on down into Lunaris 3. Alright, looks like it's time to level up Enfeeble and Temporal Chains again. Next level is 25, so it's safe to level those up, keeping level 37 in mind there, so it's safe to do those ones. Now for Lunaris 3, you can either just run this zone for XP, or you can run for XP and loot. If you want to run for XP and loot, what you'll be doing is running the zone, and then just killing Piety at the end of the run. Now that's a great way to get loot. Piety drops a lot of loot, she drops a lot of rares, you saw that probably in the last episode. And however, if you're just running it for XP, if you just want to level up from maps, then you can actually just skip piety for now if you're doing okay for gear. We're doing okay for gear, so we could potentially skip that now. And piety can take like a little bit of time to kill, and that obviously eats into your XP gaining time. So for pure XP, you just run the mobs in here. Now what we're going to actually be doing is there's a couple ways to do this. When you're first sort of getting into this zone, so maybe at my level, the best thing is to just kill everything and try and group stuff up a bit. We're going to kill the rares. So you're sidestepping these guys as they start firing to avoid a lot of that damage. You know, leave individual mobs like this. It's not worth taking the time to stop and kill something like that. And instead just killing the packs, killing the rares, and killing the blue monsters. So just group these guys up there. We'll pick up that ornate ring mail. Pick up some currency items. I tend to not worry about scrolls too much myself, but you may want to care about that a bit more. This is a bit of a dangerous pack, so I'm going to be playing a little bit more safely. The alternative method of doing this is to have like a very movement speed oriented build, so either using your quicksilvers, using quartz flasks, using leap slam, something like that, and actually just kiting everything to the next rare or blue pack. So I'll see if I can show this off on this character. Might not work so well, I'll give it a go. So these are just trash mobs, these are white mobs, aka trash mobs. There's a unique mob there. We can stop and kill the unique mob, that's actually probably a pretty good idea. She's pretty dangerous as well, so I should be a little bit careful in here. Let me kill these guys so they're not in the way. Should be trying to build up some frenzy charges as well. She does a lot of damage, that's Spinecrack. You've probably met her already. She does a lot of lightning damage, so we're just going to be keeping her at distance from there. So this isn't the best thing to do then. You probably want to try and group stuff up a bit more. So I'll just kill Spinecrack and then we'll continue on. Alright, there's the Spinecrack kill. Alrighty, let's level up item rarity some more. Okay, so we found the stairs. We're going to continue heading towards piety. You don't really need to sort of full clear the zone. You can easily just do a reset. But if you want to, you can run a loop around the starting area. So this is a blue pack, so we're going to stop to kill the blue pack. They're all spread out a little bit, which is making Lightning Arrow a little bit less effective. Lightning Arrow is very... It's very dependent on having large packs. The best thing to do as a Lightning Arrow character is to learn to really group things up. So this will be good practice here for me as well, because I haven't been playing my Lightning Arrow character too much lately. But here's a blue pack, so we kited the trash mobs to it, skipped over the trash mobs, found the blue pack. Should probably pop my granite as soon as it comes back up. Taking a fair bit of damage in here, but through life gain on hit, we're able to sort of survive all this stuff. I'll disable the name so it's not too messy. So just group up everything and then kill it like this, so you don't have to sort of spend time stopping and killing all the trash mobs every now and then. And you can sort of keep going. Now 28, safe to level these guys again. Next zone, let's try and skip over some more stuff and draw it. So skipping over all this stuff, keeping an eye out for the blue colored or a rare, and then we just kill everything at the same spot. This is so this is what you should be doing once you've sort of gotten to a bit of a higher level. Maybe if you're into the 70s, getting closer to the mid 70s and doing Lunaris, then it's more effective to simply focus on those blues, spend less time killing trash mobs. So what do we got here? Any blue packs? No blue packs yet. That's the wrong way. Got to keep an eye out for these guys. The one with the 2 carts is never the right way. Alright, alternatively, if you find a really big pack like this, you can AoE it down, because that will be a decent XP. You can see I'm getting a pretty good amount of XP there, though you're going to be getting the most from those blue packs. So let's continue along here, see if I can group it up. There's a rare there, so what I can actually do is draw this stuff over to it, and then use the fact that it's a larger group to also AoE down the rare at the same time. So we can just kill this until everything's dead there. And then kill this thing here. Fear Heart. It gives a decent amount of XP herself, and also a good chance of extra loot. You can see our endurance charges floating around us there. We're a bit like a Christmas tree now. Here's a larger pack, so we can group these guys up here. It's physical reflect, so always keep an eye out for those curses, those auras. If you are susceptible to certain types of reflect, this character's really not susceptible to either reflect, so we can sort of just go ham on them pretty easily there. Grouping them up and just focusing down these ones, skipping over the trash. So there's a bit of an option. Both different playstyles, both work pretty well at lower levels. That was a fracturing mob just there too. So that one just split into a bunch of those. Pretty dangerous actually. Ones with the fracturing mob will split into multiple copies of themselves, and they'll all attack you at once, so you can actually get killed really quickly by those. Now you want to run to the end of this area just here, through this door. It's actually through the next door, so we can actually kill some of this stuff in these jails as well, because they group up pretty nicely. And you see Lightning Arrow makes pretty short work of all this stuff. Oh, taking a bit of damage there. Gotta keep attacking sometimes with this character. That's often the case with any blood magic character, that your best strategy is often just to attack more, to keep yourself alive. Okay, so you'll eventually get to the second set of golden doors just here, And there'll be a blue pack just in here around this cart. So kill this large pack here. And this is sort of nice little juicy end section here where you'll get a lot of extra XP and items in here. So you can already see I've got a pretty good number of res just running this zone alone, even without doing the piety kill. You'll often have to do 2 trips back for a full Lunaris and piety run. And this has been pretty good XP in this run. Within this run, just a few minutes, we've already gotten like 4 bars or something since docks. I don't think we got too much in docks. And the reason for that is we're taking pretty hefty XP penalty in docks. I'll try and link you guys in the description, as I said, an XP penalty calculator, which allows you to put in your level and the zone level, and it'll tell you the XP penalties. These are 31, so still safe to level, though the next level will probably be the last. And basically, Lunaris, once you get to closer to 69 or 70, Lunaris starts becoming much more efficient XP in terms of the level penalty, the XP penalty, and also just in terms of the mob level, and the fact that there's a lot of... this is probably one of the best XP places and zones in the game, but eventually you'll out-level Lunaris to the point where it becomes less efficient than other zones. But just in terms of pure mob density and like the amount of blue packs and stuff like in here, there'll always be another pack up the top here as well. It's really, really good XP. I've sort of done the calculations in a previous video for comparing a lot of these different zones, like San, Docks, Catacombs, and Lunaris wins out on all of them, apart from if you're a higher level, then Catacombs becomes a bit more effective. I seem to be taking... Oh, corruption stacks! Oh no, corrupting! I was wondering what was happening, I'm not paying attention while I was talking. Bump-ow! Okay, so this one was corrupting blood. This is a dangerous one for lightning arrow, so this was a good lesson to teach you guys. I've died very few times in this series, so oh man, that's a shame. But a very good lesson to teach you guys. Nonetheless, Survival Guide is about you guys surviving and about me teaching you lessons, even if that involves me dying. Corrupting Blood gives you a stack of a damage over time effect per time that you hit the mob. Now, she's run off screen just now. But each time you hit her, you'll gain 1 stack. Now, the damage that you take is based off their main attack, which, so if it's an extra damage mob, they'll deal a lot of extra corruption damage. But something like Lightning Arrow, when you're AoEing into a pack, hits many, many, many times. So I got a lot of corruption stacks there very quickly. Now, the biggest counter to that is either paying attention firstly, not going ham with your AoE ability on them, using something like Frenzy instead to kill that mob, and then using a Removes Bleeding Flask. Now, the reason I died just there was my Removes Bleeding Flask was empty. The other thing I could have done was when I realized I was corrupted, I could have portaled back to town to that would remove the corruption stacks and full heal you. So either one of those, make sure you've got your Removes Bleeding Flask always ready if there's a corruption mob. So watch out for those are pretty dangerous. If this was a hardcore character, we would be permanently dead now. So anyway, that was the end of Lunaris. After that, as I said, you can tack on Piety if you want to try and get some more rare items. And it's a good way to add a bit of extra loot if you're still trying to gear up. Now I'll chuck some of these guys. All this stuff's over level 60, so I'm free to chuck that in there. There's another one-hander I can use as well. And I'll just sell the rest of the stuff for now. So the final zone I want to talk about in this episode, the final great leveling zone, because although there is City of San, it's way too lower level for this point. Docks is much more efficient. I wouldn't ever do City of San except to get ready for Docks. So that's not going to be the one we're going for. We're going for Catacombs. Now Catacombs is higher level than Lunaris. It's not quite as fast as Lunaris, and it's not quite as mob dense or blue and rare pack dense as Lunaris. But because it's higher level, it'll eventually start to win out. Now, the point where it starts to win out is somewhere around level 74 to level 75 on your character. So this level 70 character right here is probably best spending her time in Lunaris leveling. That's going to be the best spot for me to level. And if I hadn't lost that 10% XP, we would actually have a fair amount of level just in a few minutes in there. Now, Catacombs is, although it's pretty good, and you can actually do Catacombs from like all the way to level 65 to even level 80. You can get to 80 in Catacombs pretty easily. At this point, it's much more efficient for me to be in Lunaris. The other thing to consider is Catacombs is not great for everyone. For a Lightning Arrow character, it's a bit rough because the packs aren't super large, so Lightning Arrow doesn't be as effective. You can see that we're fighting like sort of like smaller packs. This is a bit of a large pack here. This is pretty decent. We can curse this. Oh, they're curse immune, of course. So this is a bit of a better pack just here. But a lot of the time stuff's kind of spread out, and because it's very tight corridors, there's some chromatic items just there I can pick up. You have a bit of time using your effective AoE, so not a great for characters like this. Melee characters will have a great time in here. And also small AoE characters like Ethereal Knives builds and things like that also have a pretty decent time in here. But the Lightning Arrow Ranger and other long-ranged sort of builds are not going to be having a great time in here. I would say things like Dual Totem Ice Spear and stuff like that are also probably not going to be having a great time. But if you're any sort of melee character or any sort of small AoE character, then you're going to be having a good time here in Catacombs. Now, as you can see, some of the mobs in here are a bit harder. A lot of cold damage in here, so make sure your cold resist is maxed out. And the stuff in here actually hits pretty hard. The cold damage hits hard, and there's physical damage that hits pretty hard too. So if your armor's a bit low, or if you don't have much cold resist, be prepared to get frozen, which is pretty nasty, or be prepared to take a lot of physical damage, which can hurt a lot if you don't have that armor up. So keep an eye on your granites. Use your granites when some of the physical mobs are swinging for you, especially the statues. They hit very hard. The skeletons and stuff like that aren't too bad. These Death Bishop's pretty annoying just here. We'll kill him and then leave because we've already killed all those. You don't get XP from resummoned creatures. So as you can see, I'm getting okay amounts of XP in here. It's a little bit slow for me at the moment. I can still kill stuff kind of fast, but not as fast as I can in Lunaris. And the packs aren't as big, so there's more time sort of spent killing like 1 or 2 mobs every here and there, which is not great for Lightning Arrow. The Static Shrine has been certainly helping a little bit, giving mobs an extra shock stack. And you see this guy here is, does he have an extra thing? Oh no, he just had Energy Shield. That's why it was taking so long to kill him. Thought he might have been an extra armored mob or something. There's a physical reflect mob, but even with Frenzy, not a problem. So I can group these guys up and kill these guys here. Now the way you want to just run this is enter the first door that we did, so you can see over here you enter the first door and then just pick one of the outside walls and stick to it. There's another chromatic item for me. So we're going to sprint all the way around, you know, try and group up the larger packs again still. Same strategy as always for farming. Efficient farming techniques don't really matter on the zone too much. It's always just about grouping up large packs and skipping over individual mobs to really make your time spent leveling efficient, and you'll feel much better when you are actually kind of farming efficiently, because you'll actually gain levels at a reasonable pace. And often your build will feel a lot better. A big problem, especially if you're playing like a Lightning Arrow character, just doesn't feel like it's working well, like you don't feel like you're dealing much damage. It's most likely you're doing things like, you know, not attacking larger packs and not utilizing your AoE skills to their full potential. Whereas if you take a bit of, you know, an extra second here and there to group up a pack first before you attack them, so sort of just like positioning yourself so they're all on top of each other, then you'll deal a lot more damage and you'll feel much more effective. So just sort of skipping through here, I'll just sort of show you guys the layout. Cursing all this large pack here. I'll take out this pack before we move into here. Once you get into this area that just opens up here, chromatic and transmutation, nice. You'll see that there's this little bridge section here, and it opens up in here, and there's a couple blue packs in here. I think there's 2 blue packs in here, or 1 very large one, I suppose, as well as some statues and stuff like that support. I see Superior Convocation. That's one of the new skill gems that's been added into the game. Cool. I'll make sure to go grab that. We'll take a look at that in a second. But this is a large pack here. Spiders also pop up, so you get a pretty good burst of XP here at the end. And oh, getting frozen by all the skeletal mages. Oh man, you can see that into effect there. Is our cold res maxed? Our cold res is our cold resistance. Oh, it is currently maxed, yeah. Oh, that's because of the endurance charges helping our resistance. Endurance charges are so good. But these guys just hit hard, so if they crit, they'll freeze you, even with decent cold resistance, unless you're like over max, where you've increased your maximum cold resistance cap up to like 80 or something like that, where they stop becoming as much of a problem, or when you get a ridiculously large life pool. Now the other thing to check is after you kill these packs here, is there's sometimes an extra zone just in here that will have a large chest in it that you can open. So these guys are now level 34. I think that might be the final level for them. We'll check next time they level, but I think next time they level they'll be like level 39 or something like that. So that's probably the final level there, and that's going to be the most effective it gets, which curses still have a pretty good effect even at lower levels, just their AoE is not as great. So you'll see when we take damage, you know, all this stuff is still temporal changed and they're not able to hit us as fast. So once you finish that zone, continue heading along the same outside wall you were, in the same direction. I should be checking 2 stone rings. I want to start picking those up to Chance Orb. And I did say, I think a couple episodes ago, that I was going to sort of share with you guys what things I would Chance Orb personally. And a 2 stone ring with 16 roll on it is something I would pick up. So that's 16 cold and lightning resistance. That's a max roll for that ring there on the implicit. So we'll throw a Chance Orb on that in a moment. But I just continue heading along the outside. You can sort of poke into the middle sections in a few spots, but generally it's just most efficient to continue along the outside of the zone like this. Alright, so we're nearing our way to the edge here. Oops, accidentally picked up a white item. And you can see it's basically just a giant square, so it's pretty efficient just to run the outside like that, and just occasionally poke in and grab the larger groups that you can see off the edge of your screen that are in the inner sections. But once you get to the exit, you can simply leave the zone through the initial starting doorway, and just refresh by clicking on the zone entry to do another run, just the same as we've done, just control click the door to come back in. Lunar is basically when you get to the end, you just teleport out, either before or after you kill Piety, depending on your goal. But Catacombs, you just do it like this. And Docks, usually you'll get to the end of a pier and then teleport out, unless you've happened to finish near the doorway, in which case you can use the doorway for a refresh. Let's check this helmet here. No, not quite. We got a lot of chromatic items in there for some reason. Had a lot of luck on the chromatics. 4 new chromatics. I'll chuck a chance orb on that ring as well. So those are the main XP leveling zones. Of course, the other option is to level up inside of maps a bit more, but I think it's a good idea to grab a few levels. In about half an hour there of pretty casual farming with some breaks, we got almost half a level, but I did die, so I lost 10% there. So, you know, you could see over a few hours, you could easily get yourself, you know, 71, 72, 73, 74, somewhere around there, and then you're probably ready to start jumping into maps. So, I think in the next episode, that's probably what we'll be doing. Either jumping into maps, or maybe jumping into maps and getting ourselves set up with a bit of a slight respecking of the character towards running some auras and dropping the blood magic keystone. But that's a goal we're working towards a bit on the character at the moment. But let's chuck a chance orb on this and see what we get. Oh, 6 to 12 physical damage. Not quite, not quite. So I'll sell the rest of this stuff. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As usual, if you have any questions about, you know, the character, the series, Path of Exile in general, feel free to ask them in the questions below, in the comments below, and I'll share what I can. This is our Convocation here. 5% is a low roll. Convocation returns all minions to you. Basically, it's purely for summoners, and the quality bonus is nice, I'm sure, but 5% is a bit low for it to be worth much, so that's probably something I would just throw towards the GCP vendor recipe, where you vendor 40% total quality, and you'll eventually get a GCP back from that. But anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.